Hey, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to build this shop admin dashboard, and we are going to do this using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, if you are interested in learning by building projects, you will actually find this video very interesting. So the goal of this video is to help you solidify your knowledge of HTML, CSS, and a bit of JavaScript. Trust me, you are going to like this project. And this is a very good project for you to add to your portfolio. And this dashboard is fully responsive. So on iPad, you are going to have something like this. And on the mobile, we have this. Okay? And after everything, we are going to publish this website. Remember, I said it's a good project to add to your portfolio. So we are going to publish this using Netlify so that you can share the link to your friends or add the link to your portfolio so that potential employers can actually view this website from anywhere in the world. So you can decide to extend this project and restructure it the way you want. So if you want to level up your knowledge of HTML, CSS, and what is expected of you as a front-end developer, please pick your popcorn, relax, and let's jump in. In order to follow up with this project, we are going to need two major things. The first one is a code editor. And for me, I'll be using VS Code as my code editor. Feel free to use any code editor of your choice. But if you want to use VS Code and you don't have it installed in your PC, simply open your web browser and type VS Code. Once you enter VS Code, open the first option. Here you are going to see a link to download and install VS Code in your machine. The second thing we are going to need is a web browser. And for me, I'm going to be using Google Chrome. Feel free to use any web browser of your choice, but I will encourage you to use Google Chrome so we stay on the same page. Okay? Now that we have the two major things we are going to need, if you're on Windows, please open your command prompt. And if you're on Mac, simply open your terminal. Right here in my terminal, I am going to navigate to where I want to create the projects folder. First, I will navigate into my desktop. And to do that, I will simply use CD desktop. Okay, and I will hit enter. Now I am in my desktop. So on my desktop, I'm going to create a folder and I'm going to call this shop admin. So mkdir shop admin, and I will hit enter. I have created a folder in my desktop. So if you are doing the same thing, if you go to your desktop now, you will see this particular folder. The next thing I want to do is to move into that folder. So I will simply type cd shop admin and I will hit enter. Now I can open this particular folder in my code editor simply by using code space then dot, and this will open the code editor with this particular directory as our project directory. Okay, so when you hit enter, this opens the code editor. So here is our project folder. Remember, you can open this particular folder right from your code editor. Okay, when you open your code editor, simply go to files, and here you can actually select open folder. So once you click on open folder, you will simply see a prompt to select the folder you want to open, and you can select that folder we created. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to simply create a file, and let's call this index.html. Since it's HTML file, we use the .html file extension. Okay, and here I'm not going to waste our time. By the help of Emmet, I'm simply going to use a shortcut to generate HTML boilerplate. Simply type this exclamation mark and hit enter. Okay, so here let's simply change the title to shop admin dashboard. Great. And here in the body, for now, let's simply put H1, and here let's say dashboard. The next thing we want to do is to open our file in a web browser, okay? And for the purpose of this project, I am going to be using an extension. So I will want you to come to this particular icon, click on this, okay? And here type live server. Click on this particular option, the first one. Here you will see install. I already have live server installed. Simply click on install and install live server. Once you install live server, you are going to see this particular icon here, go live. Simply click on go live. Great. Here is our website. Before we continue, let's take a look at the project we want to build. In order to build this project, I want us to understand exactly what we are doing. So we are going to split this into components, okay? So this particular part, we are going to call this the sidebar, okay? So this is going to be like a sidebar component, and everything here is going to be the main part of our project. Let me show you an example. Let's go to upwork.com. If I'm to build this particular website, the first thing I will do is to split the whole website into smaller components, okay? This particular part, this is going to be my header. So inside the body element in the HTML file, inside the body, I'm going to have three main things if I'm to build this particular website. The first one is going to be the header, and the header is going to hold everything we have here, okay, this particular part. The next one is going to be the main. So I'll be using the semantic main element. The main tag is going to wrap everything here, okay, everything excluding this part. This part is the last part of this website, and this here is obviously the footer. So I'm going to use the footer tags to wrap everything here. So this here will be our footer. Here is our main, and this is our header. So if I am to build this particular website, the first three things I'm going to add inside this body will be first the header, okay? So here I'm going to use this, and the next one is going to be the main, okay? And finally, I am going to have the footer. So this here is going to be the structure of my page if I am to build the Upwork.com. By the way, I already made a video on how to build Upwork.com from scratch in this particular channel. Okay, so if you are interested in building Upwork.com, you can actually check the videos in this channel. So let's remove this and go back to the browser. Now, for the case of this particular project, what I'm going to do is to wrap this here. This part is going to be wrapped in a side element, okay? So this sidebar is going to be aside. I will put that aside, and I will wrap every other thing on this page inside the main tags. This is going to be the header, okay? This particular part will be the header, and this header will be inside the main. Then every other thing here will be a section on its own. I hope you understand. As a front-end developer, it's very important to always use semantic HTML tags. So let's go straight and actually see this in practice. Inside this body, the first part I'm going to undo is this sidebar, and for that I'm going to use aside, okay? And inside this aside now, I will use a container to wrap this particular title here, this shop admin. I will use a container to wrap this particular title here, this shop admin, and I will use the semantic nav tags, okay, because these are navigations. So I'm going to wrap them inside the nav tag. So I'm going to wrap this inside the nav tag. So let's go straight and do this. So here, let's add a div, and let's give this div a class of sidebar header, okay? Let's give this aside a class of sidebar, and also an ID of sidebar. When we are dealing with JavaScript, we are going to be making use of these IDs. You are going to see that. Okay, so back in this div, let's add a span, and let's give this span a class of logo, okay? And here, let's simply say shop. And inside this span, I'm going to add yet another span. And for this, I will give a class of logo accents. And here I'm going to add admin. This here is actually for styling, because if you look at this text here, we have two different colors. So that is why I am giving this a different class and I am giving this one another class. Okay. So the next thing we want to do now is to simply add a button. Okay. And this particular button is actually for the mobile view, because if you go on mobile, we have this. So when you click on this, you have this particular icon, and this one is actually on the sidebar. So that is why we are adding this button here. So let's give this button a class of closed sidebar. Also, let's give this an ID. Also, let's give this an ID of closed sidebar. And here, for now, let's simply use HTML entity. So we can use the times HTML entity. And let's save this. Okay, great. So now we are done with this. Let's move on to the navigation. So after this particular div, simply add the nav tag. Okay, and for this nav, let's give this a class of sidebar nav. Okay, and here we are going to use another list. So we have our li, and since this is a navigation, we are going to be using an anchor tag here. Okay, so for now, let's simply put hash. Now we need to put an icon, which is this particular icon, then this text. And for this icon, we are going to be making use of font awesome. Okay, so simply go to your web browser and type font awesome. Open this first option. Okay, so here we are on font awesome. The first thing we want to do is to create an account. Okay, so click on this icon. If you already have an account, simply enter your email address, your password, and sign in. If you don't have an account, simply click on sign up and get started. Please, if you have any question on this part, drop your question in the comment section and I will reply you immediately. Okay, so to create account, enter your email address and click on start for free. Okay, and if you already have an account, return back to already have an account, enter your email address, your password, and sign in. If you forget your password, simply click on forgot your password. So I will enter my email and password and I'm going to sign in now. Once you sign in, you are going to see this particular page. This page might look different depending on when you are watching this video, but I'm sure you are going to see a prompt to actually get exactly what we need. So click on this particular option, set up icons in a project with one line of code. Once you click on that option, you are going to see this script here. Okay, simply copy this. Now let's go back to our HTML file. Inside the head, okay, inside this particular head, simply paste this here and save this file. So the next thing we are going to do now is to click on icons. Okay, once you click on these icons, you will see these icons here. Okay, and here we can actually search for any icon. Great. So the first icon we are going to use is this particular house icon, and you can actually search this here. You can type house and you will see this particular one. Okay, I'm going to use this one because it is free. So when you click on this, you will actually see this particular HTML element. Simply copy this. Okay, if you click on this, it will copy it. Go back to your project. Here inside our anchor tag, simply press Command V to paste that, or Control V if you're on Windows. Okay, so if you save this now, let's go back to our web page. Okay, and see, you see now we have this icon here. Okay, and which means that we are currently using icons from Font Awesome. After this I tag, simply add dashboard. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is actually to copy this and repeat it several times. Okay, and back in Font Awesome, okay, let's actually search for box. So we need this particular icon, and which is this one. So simply copy this and paste that here. So we are going to remove the second one and paste that here. Let's change this text to products. The third one, let's change this to others, and let's change this one to customers. So we need to copy more. Okay, let's change this one to analytics. Let's paste one more and change this text to settings. Okay, now let's change this particular icon here. Let's look for shopping carts. Okay, so we can use this particular icon, copy this and put that here for others. Next, let's search for users. Okay, let's copy this particular icon and put that in place for customers. Okay, next, let's search for chat lines. Okay, we can use this one, the free one, and let's put that here. Next, let's search for a gear icon. Okay, let's copy this particular one, and let's put that here for settings. Let's save this file and go back to our page. Great. So now we have this. Amazing. Amazing. And we are actually done with the sidebar. Okay, great. Great. And I'm sure you are beginning to see the power of CSS, because with CSS, you see, we have this amazing sidebar. But for just with HTML, we have this. Okay, let's go straight to our main element. So after this aside, I will add another element, and this is going to be the main. Okay, and for this main, let's give this a class of main contents. Okay, we are going to start from this part, and this is going to be our header. So we can actually use HTML comments, and to add comments in HTML, we simply use less than, exclamation mark, dash dash. Okay, so here is the opening part and here is the closing part, and here let's simply say header. Okay, and now let's add the header tag, and let's simply give this a class of header. Okay, remove this plus. Good. So first, let's add a button for the mobile view. Okay, remember this particular button. Okay, so let's do that here. So we are going to give this a class of menu button. Okay, btn, and let's give this an ID of open sidebar, and here I'm going to use an HTML entity for menu. Okay, which is 9776. Okay, let's save this. Let's go back to our page. So here we have this particular menu. So this is HTML entities for menu. If you want to explore more on HTML entities, simply go to your web browser and type HTML entities. You will actually see a table of many HTML entities. Okay, so after this button, let's simply add H1. And for this, we will say dashboard. So this is the main title. This is the main title of our page, and that is why we are using H1 here. And remember, it is a good practice to have a single H1 per page. This is going to be the only H1 we are going to have for this particular page. So after this, now let's add a div. Okay, and this div is simply going to hold this particular icon. Okay, good. So let's give this div a class of profile menu, and now we simply need to add an image. Okay, and for the source, I am going to be making use of random user. Okay, so open your web browser, type random user, hit enter. You can expand this, open the first option. So on this website, you get access to free profile pictures. Okay, so here you have access to several profile pictures. If you scroll down, you will see an option on how to use this. Okay, so you can actually copy this very first option. Copy this. That's all we need. Back to our page, paste that inside this source. Okay, and one thing I'm going to do, you can now change this to any number you want. So I'm going to change mine to 32. Okay, and for the auth, let's simply say profile, and let's give this a class of profile piece. Good. Let's go back to our page. You see, now we have this simple profile picture. Okay, now if you go to the finished project, when you click on this profile picture, you actually see this. So we are going to wrap this here in a div. Okay, very simple. Oh, please correct this. This should be div, not di. Okay, so after the image, let's now add a div, and we're going to give this div a class of profile drop down. Okay, because that actually is a drop down. Let's simply use anchor tag. So here, let's simply say hash, and let's say my profile. So we can repeat this 2 times. And here, let's simply change this to setting, and let's change this to log out. Now, when I did something like this, in case you don't understand what I did, let me show you. If you come here, so on your code editor, if you move up, you will see this particular option here, selection. Click on this selection. Now, here you will see several options. So there is copy line up. For instance, if I want to copy this particular line up, look at what I'm going to use. So go back to selection, copy line up. This is option, then shift, then arrow up. So if you press option, shift, arrow up, you see you are simply copying line up. If you want to copy line up, you simply press. If you want to copy line down, is also there. Copy line down, option, shift, arrow down. So that is exactly what I did before. Option, shift, arrow down. Here you have options for several shortcuts. Okay, great, good. So now we are done with this particular part. Let's simply move to this part. And for that, we are going to simply wrap everything inside a session. So here, let's add another comment. And I hope you are beginning to see how we are structuring this particular page. So here, let's simply say cards. And for this, we'll simply wrap everything here inside a session. Okay. So here, let's simply say session, and let's give this session a class of dashboard cards. Okay. Now I'm going to add a div, and I'm going to give this div a class of card. So class card. So inside this div now, I'm going to add h3. Okay. And this h3 will be, let me move this one side. That is for this particular test. So here I will simply say others. Next, I'm going to add a paragraph, and I will give this a class of card value, an ID of others can't. Okay, and here I will simply add 1203. And finally, I'm going to add a span, and this span I'm going to give a class of card analysis. Okay. And for this, I'm simply going to put this test. So I can simply copy this and put that here. Great. So we are done with this particular card. And if you look at the remaining ones, they are actually the same thing. So all I'm going to do is to simply copy this particular card. So I'll copy this and repeat it 3 times. Okay. So the second one, this here is the first one. The second one, I'm going to change others to sales, and this I will change to 32,200. This I'll simply change this to 8. Okay, and for the third one, that should be customers, and this is 865, and this is actually 2% this week. Let's change the last one to revenue, and that is 4520, and it's 12%. That's all. As simple as that. We are done with this particular session. Okay, good. So the next thing we need to undo is actually this table, and that table is going to be wrapped inside another session. Okay, so after this session, let's simply add another session, and let's add a comment here. So here we simply say recent orders. Okay, so inside this session now, let's add a div, and let's give this div a class of session header. Let's give this session a class of recent orders. Guys, I hope you understand the structure of what we are doing. Okay, so here now, this is going to be H2. So inside this particular first div, we want to put this here, these recent orders, and view all. Okay, those are the two things we want to put here. So first, let's use H2 and let's simply say recent orders. And for this one, we simply use HTML button. So here, let's say button, and let's give this button a class of view all. And here we simply say view all. Okay, so that's all. That's all we want inside this div. After the div, the next thing we need to do is to add this, and this is a table. So we simply use the HTML table. Okay, so here we simply say table, and first we need to have a table head. Okay, so we use the T head. Inside our T head, let's add a row just for this particular row. Okay, so inside this TR now, the table row, we need to add TH, and for this we simply say order and space, put this hash. Okay, so now let's copy this line down and let's change this customer. The next one should be date, status, and total. Okay, that's all for the T head. So we are done with this part. The next thing we need to add is the table body. Very simple. Okay, so we have the table head. We can close that. After this table head, simply add T body. Simple. For this T body, let's actually give it an ID of orders table. Okay, and we gave this an ID of orders table because we are going to fill this. Okay, we are going to fill this using JavaScript, and you are going to see how fun this is actually going to be. Okay, so let's simply add a comment here. Okay, and here we are going to say we'll populate with JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript, I don't know how you feel, but this is actually a very interesting project. We are actually done with our table. We are done with this session. Okay, you are going to see how we are going to fill this up using JavaScript. Great. Now let's go to the last session, and is this particular session. So after this, let's simply add a comment. Okay, and we are simply going to say products list. So let's add a session. And let's give this session a class of product list. So here we are going to use two containers. Let's simply add that. This is the first one, and this is the second one. The first one is going to hold this and this, just like we did here. Okay, so this first one is going to hold products, featured products, and this particular button. The second one is going to hold these ones. Okay, so for the first one, let's give it a class of session header. Okay, we have that class. We used that class before somewhere here. Okay, so we are using the same thing. So that means the same style will be applied to this div here and this particular div. Okay, good. So you see, that is actually dry code. We are not going to repeat same style. So we use the same thing for both of them. Good. And here we simply use H2 like before, and we simply say featured products. Then let's use the button just as we did before, and let's give this a special class of add products. Okay, and here we are simply going to use the plus. Then let's simply say add products. Good. So we are done with that div. For the second div, let's give this a class of products grid. And we are going to give this ID of products grid. Let's actually add S here. And for this particular div, we are also not going to add anything. Everything you see here is going to be populated using JavaScript. So here, let's copy this comment and let's put that here and save this file. And now we are done with the HTML part. Simple as this. We don't have to waste any time. Okay, so let's go to our web browser and see what we have. Great. So here is our website. And actually, I don't know how you feel, but this is actually great. The next thing we are going to do is to add our style sheets. Okay, so here we create a file and we call the styles.css. Okay, and let's bring in this particular file into our HTML. We need to link them together, and we are going to do this using the link tag. So here, simply type dots, then backslash, and bring in this styles.css. Now let's actually see if everything works perfectly well. So we can use the universal selector, and let's actually remove all margin. So margin, let's set that to 0. Oh, great. You see that our CSS is actually properly linked. Set background color to green, and you see everything works correctly. Let's remove this. We don't need this. Let's add padding. Let's set this to 0. Let's set the box sizing, okay, and let's set this to border box. Great, everything works perfectly well. This is where we are going to stop, and in the next video we are going to make this page to look exactly like this. Okay, thank you so much for being part of this project. Please, if you are currently here and you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe. Also, like and share this video. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.